What's up guys, I'm Nocturnal. So Shadowlands is right around the corner, and with that being said, today I'm going to be covering everything you need to know so that you and your characters are prepared for launch. Now, we're going to be starting with level 1 and covering everything through level 50 and beyond that you should be doing so that on release day, you guys are ready to hop out of the gates and kick some Shadowlands butt. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so the first step to getting yourself prepared for Shadowlands is of course getting your character to max level. Now whether this is your first character or you're leveling an alt, this process is going to be a little different, so we're going to go through both of them. And of course if you guys are not interested in leveling your character right now, or you're just happy with the alt you have, you can go ahead and skip to the next part of the video where we talk about important leveling consumables, not just up to level 50, but through Shadowlands as well, gearing up alts, and maybe just tuning up some mains as well. And lastly, some important tips and essential things you're going to need to keep in mind when you hop into Shadowlands for the first time, and especially through early expansion. And quick disclaimer, if you're watching this video, you're probably trying to get to current endgame content as quickly as possible. So I'm going to be going through the most optimized leveling path for a new player or a returning player through level 50. With that being said, if you're feeling like exploring different parts of the game, there are countless ways to level, countless expansions to do so, especially with the Chromie time walking, so always feel free to level up in your way. There's a slim margin between the most optimized leveling path and the leveling path you choose, especially now with Shadowlands and the level squish and just the ease of leveling in general. So just have fun with it, and time flies when you're having fun. So there we go. Alrighty, so the first thing you're going to do, regardless if you're a new player or a returning player, is hop into Exile's Reach. Now if you've played before and have a max level character, you're given a choice between Exile's Reach and the racial starting zones. But compared to these racial starting zones that are pretty scattered, consist of a lot of walking, and aren't really optimized, Exile's Reach has a pretty linear and straightforward and condensed leveling process, so you get through level 10 as fast as you can. Now this is where you're going to be sent to the main city, and before you hop into any more leveling or new expansions, you're going to want to set your Hearthstone here and closest to the nearest stable master, so that every time you hit a leveling milestone, whether it's 10, 30 for flying, or anything in between, you're going to be able to do so. And this is probably one of the most important steps to streamlining your leveling experience, because like I said, having these fast mounts to move around or even flying around is going to make your life a lot easier. And having your Hearthstone set in this way is probably the quickest way to do so, because while leveling you're going to be moving pretty quickly, so you're never really going to be staying in any single zone for too long. Along with upgrading your mounts at level 20, I would recommend coming back to the main city just to turn war mode on. I can't stress this enough, not only because you get extra combat abilities and your PvP talents, but you also get a bonus 10% XP regardless of what you're doing, whether it's questing or just killing mobs. And while the idea of faction PvP for a new player who's just learning the game or learning the character may be daunting, the leveling paths we're going to be talking about in just a second in BFA or in Warlords of Draenor if you're a more experienced player happen in pretty much exclusively Alliance or Horde specific zones. So I almost guarantee you're not going to run into any PvP trouble, you're just going to get the added benefit of the XP and PvP talents. That being said, if you run into any excessive ganking or griefing by either Horde or Alliance while you're leveling up, let me know in the comments below and I got you. Following Exile's Reach, this is where your path is going to diverge, whether you're leveling for the first time or you're just leveling an alt. Now if you're leveling for the first time, you're going to be sent into the BFA expansion. Now the BFA leveling process is pretty straightforward and easy to follow, but the pathing is going to be a little different depending on if you're going to play as an Alliance or a Horde character. Now if you're an Alliance character, you're going to want to start your leveling in Justfar, go through Tiergard Sound, and end in Stormsong Valley. And if you're a Horde character, you're going to start in Vol'dun, go through Zuldazar, and end in Nazmir. Following the main quest line should get you through the expansion and through level 50 without much trouble, while providing adequate gear as well as gold so that you can upgrade your mounts and some important Shadowlands consumables that you're going to need for the next expansion. And we'll talk about this more in a bit. Now if this is not your first character, then you're probably not going to be too worried about the gear, especially if you have heirlooms and stuff like that. So you're going to be looking for the fastest way to get your character to level 50. Now after leaving Exile's Reach, you're going to be prompted to choose an expansion to level through, and currently the fastest to do so is Warlords of Draenor. Now if you're an Alliance character, you're going to be starting in Shadowmoon Valley, and if you're a Horde character, you're going to be starting in Frostfire Ridge. Now, while following the main quest line and leveling through Warlords of Draenor, you want to make sure you keep an eye out for and pick up any treasures and do any bonus objectives on your way. Bonus objectives are a huge source of XP in this expansion, and is one of the reasons why WoD is the best expansion to level in right now. Make sure that regardless of what zone you're in, whether it's Shadow Moon Valley or Frostfire Ridge or any zone beyond, that you finish any objective that you see on the map. Along the way, picking up any treasures or chests you find. Although I wouldn't go out of your way to look for these, as in recent patches they've been nerfed as far as XP goes. After finishing your starting zone, I would head straight to Gorgon and do any bonus objectives and questing that you can do there. Completing the majority of the zone should get you close, if not to level 50, and if there's anything left to do, I would head around to either Spires of Iraq or Talador to finish any bonus objectives to get you there. So yeah, that pretty much sums up everything you need to know as far as the pathing goes, regardless if you're a new player or returning as an alt. Now that being said, with consumables, this process can be made a lot more efficient, and we're going to be talking about these next not only because they'll help you get to level 50, but because many of these are going to be effective and useful in Shadowlands as well, so you're going to want to start stockpiling these and have these ready to go the moment you hop into the next expansion. Alright, so consumables. Now, I can't stress these enough because more so than any item or any piece of gear that you may have while leveling up, these are going to save you the most time and really get you to where you want to go, which is level 50 for now, and level 60 in Shadowlands as fast as possible, where the gear and the things you're collecting are actually useful and important. Now that being said, as a new player, you might not have access to these things from the get-go, mostly due to gold constraints, but once you're level 50 and start gearing up your character and start getting used to the game, you're going to want to start stockpiling these things, whether you're going to use them to level up a new character and help speed that up, or help you put it ahead of the pack when expansion starts. And as we move closer to expansion and through early expansion, with everyone leveling up and stuff like that, these things are only going to get more expensive, so the earlier you start getting them together, the happier your wallet's going to be. Now the consumables I'm going to be talking about today are not only useful in your 1 through 50 journey, but are going to be relevant through Shadowlands as well. A lot of the old consumables, pots, and even haste drums have been nerfed and capped at level 50, so we're not going to talk about those and pretty much stick exclusively to the mobility things that are going to be useful through the next expansion. Alrighty, so the first item, and probably one of the most useful, is the Goblin Glider. Now, characteristic of many early expansion experiences, you're not going to have access to flying, so having a Goblin Glider to get you from one place to another at flying speed is going to be essential to saving you time and leveling up more efficiently. And because this item has been around for so long and is pretty accessible, the Goblin Glider is extremely affordable, and I generally like to take 3 to 5 stacks of these into any new expansion so that I can use anytime I need it. As you'll find, mobility is key, so another important mobility item is the gun shoes. Now the gun shoes are a little more expensive, but they do allow you to basically sprint at 200% speed across water if need be, and on top of that they can be used on the ground as well, so if you have the budget for it, definitely pick these up. And lastly, you're going to want to pick up some Bear Tartar, which is a food buff that's going to grant you a 14% movement boost every time you kill an enemy that yields experience or honor. And this is going to be nice to have because, especially during the leveling process, you're going to be going through a lot of mobs, killing a lot of things, and even running into some PvP from time to time if you have war mode on. So, and unlike the consumables from before, which have a few minutes of cooldown, the Bear Tartar is a food buff that lasts 60 minutes, so you're going to have it constantly up while you're playing the game. And because of this, I would recommend having at least a few stacks of these ready for the next expansion. Just in case it expires, or if you lose it to death, or even if you just need to log off for a little break and it runs out. Now aside from these, whether you're leveling right now or through Shadowlands, you're going to want to make as much use of your mount as you can. And to maximize this, you're going to want to make use and pick up a few pieces of mount equipment while you can. Now their effects can vary and you can only have one equipped at a time, but the ones I would recommend are either the Light Step Hoof Plates, which increase your mount speed by 20%, the Comfortable Rider's Barding, which can keep you from getting dazed while mounted, and lastly the inflatable mount shoes, which allows your mount to walk on water. Alrighty, so that wraps up my consumables recommendations for the next expansion. Like I said, these can also be used in your 1 through 50 journey, but like I said, these are the few consumables that are going to be relevant in Shadowlands as well, especially given the nerfs and caps to a lot of the past consumables as of patch 9.0. Now with Shadowlands, there's a lot of you who are looking to gear up your characters, get the item level as high as you can, whether it's your first character or an alt. And fortunately, with the Shadowlands pre-expansion event, there's actually a pretty easy way to get this item level up to a respectable level and something that you can feel confident going into Shadowlands with. Now, after finishing the introductory questline, you're introduced to the new Icecrown Citadel, and along with that, you're granted access to a lot of farmable level 100 gear, which is on par with the normal raid gear currently. This is accessed through doing daily quests for Argent commendations, which you can then turn in for any armor that you need, like I said, at level 100. You can also farm bosses, which are constantly in rotation in Icecrown, and these also drop level 100 gear. And unlike the vendor, this also gives you a chance for weapons, rings, and trinkets as well as a chance for a cool 34 slot bag. Now this event also opens up the new world boss in Nathanos Blightcaller, and he drops level 115 gear. Now granted, you can only clear him once a week, but it only takes a few minutes, so a chance at that 115 gear will give you a pretty significant advantage leading into the next expansion. If you want to know more details about this event loot and how to acquire it quickly, as well as other goodies and activities this event entails, feel free to check out my video on the Death's Rising questline and the Shadowlands pre-expansion event down below in the description. Now rest assured, if you don't have the opportunity or the time to farm out a full set of gear or get fully geared up, Shadowlands questing and leveling, as is with most early expansion experiences, will provide a lot of new replacement gear that you'll need while leveling. And on top of this, when you enter the mall for the first time, as part of the main questline, you'll be accompanied and doing an escort quest, so you'll pretty much have some friendly NPCs helping you out throughout this first portion of the game, so you'll be good to go. That being said, you don't want to go in fully unarmed, and having this little bit of extra gear will help improve your clear time and kind of put you ahead of the pack, especially in the rush to compete for max level and questing resources and stuff like that. Now aside from gear and consumables, there's a few things that you're going to want to keep in mind heading into the next expansion. And one of the first things you want to consider is what spec you want to run depending on your class. Now generally speaking, tanks have an easier time leveling, mostly due to their survivability and their ability to pull a lot of mobs at once. So especially if you're deciding to level solo or if you're undergeared, running with the tank spec is an extremely valuable option, especially in early expansion. That being said, if you're in a group or if you have high gear, running as a DPS will help you quickly clear through mobs. So these are a few things to consider when you're picking up your spec. Of course, it really comes down to what you prefer and how you'd like to experience the game. So while this is maybe the more optimal specs for your given situation, it is the most important to play what you prefer, what you want to improve in, and at the end of the day, what you have the most fun with. Lastly, Shadowlands is going to be a linear questing experience where everyone pretty much follows the same pathing. Now because of this, at times the questing will get bottlenecked, whether it's a mob that needs to respawn or resources that are low, and because of this you want to try to maximize your time. Professions in Shadowlands are going to be a little more difficult to level, so maybe picking up professions or even doing side quests and killing rares and stuff like that will not only help you to progress in different ways, but also help you maximize your time, especially in the rush that is early expansion. And when it is all said and done, while it is exciting to be the first one or the first few to hit the newest content, everyone's going to reach the max level in due time. The way WoW is oriented today is pretty endgame heavy, so the questing is linear, getting to max level is pretty seamless. So the most important thing is to make sure you enjoy yourself and have a good time learning your classes, learning all the new things about Shadowlands, and yeah, have fun getting ready for it, and hopefully we'll see you guys out there. Alrighty guys, as always, thanks again for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video and learned anything new, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps support the channel, and as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be part of a lot of Shadowlands and just WoW coverage in general in the upcoming weeks as the expansion progresses. So don't forget to stay tuned for that and keep an eye out for our next video. And besides that, we'll catch you guys next time. Catch you later.